How did you get here?
A great question. I have a degree in economics as an undergraduate.
Yeah.
The pandemic hit. The showbiz really wasn't functioning, especially for actors. And so I was bored out of my mind. And a buddy of mine came to me and he said, I should buy Bitcoin. It was, in the news. The celebrities were hawking it. And I love my buddy, but he's given me terrible financial advice before. He had...
As many friends do.
As many friends do. And in my 20s, he'd encouraged me to invest in some random company that had supposedly produced synthetic blood. This was in Theranos. It was some precursor scam. Anyway, I put money in. He put money in. We both lost it. He came back to me and said I should buy Bitcoin. And I'm like, Dave, I am not going to buy Bitcoin. What is it? You know? And he did that thing where he's like, it's a cryptocurrency. And I'm like, so it's money. You can buy stuff with it. Oh, yeah. And I was like, Dave, are you sure you know what you're getting into? Anyway, that led me down a rabbit hole.
Somebody with whom you talk is an historian of fraud, and he talks about sort of what goes through the mind of a fraudster, how a fraud is executed. What did you learn about kind of the way that those who are perpetrating frauds, be they financial or otherwise, are thinking about what they're doing in real time?
Yeah, I found that fascinating. This guy, Dan Davis, wrote a book called Lying for Money, which I highly recommend if you're into true crime and true crime and financial crime and how frauds work. And one of the things he told me that I thought was fascinating is that fraudsters are not like other criminals. They don't generally commit violent crimes. And they often start out as legitimate businessmen. And then sometimes they enter into the fraud through a mistake. Sometimes it's intentional. But the lie gets bigger and bigger and bigger. But they have to conceive of themselves as legitimate businessmen. They're sort of the ultimate method actors, right? Like they have to believe their own story, which I think explains perhaps why Sam Bankman-Fried was willing to talk to me on camera, even though in our Twitter profile it said, writing a book on crypto and fraud. So I couldn't understand that, but I think he still feels that he's a legitimate businessman.
You sit down with him in New York.
Yeah.
I think we have a clip of that.
I had a conversation with Alex Mashensky, Celsius. Yeah.
Yep.
I asked him how much real money is in crypto, and he said 10 to 15%. He said the rest is speculation.
Thank you. So as of today, I think the number of dollars in crypto have not changed massively between then and now.
One when perhaps they've lessened.
They certainly have not increased. I don't think they've decreased massively, though, which I think lines up with some of your thought that like a lot of this was leverage leaving the system.
Part of the problem, if they haven't left, is that people can't get their money out. Imagine this is a regulated bank.
Oh, yeah.
This would be a big problem.
That would be a big problem.
This does not seem like the decentralized, democratized future of money that we were promised.
I think we've seen all the major carnage in the crypto industry already.
Throughout that interview, he's kind of making a claim that all of the fraud, all of the bad actors have been felled.
Yeah.
And that crypto is wide open and a clearer slate than perhaps we all expected.
Right, and then like 5 months later, he's arrested. Yeah, I mean, this is a repetitive theme in crypto, is, no, okay, that was the bad guy. Oh, no, actually, that was the bad guy. Well, no, this one, at a certain point, the way I understand it is this. Look, there's the retail trading public, and those people are not bad people. They're trying to make some money. I mean, maybe some of them are, but they represent normal retail investors. And I am not doing this against them. I'm trying to protect them from an industry that I think doesn't care about them. You know what I mean? I don't see the crypto companies really doing anything to protect their customers. In fact, what they're doing is trying to change the rules, get special legislation so that they aren't treated like banks or securities or whatever. And so yeah, I would say that that's my motivation. I find the sort of constant deflection of like, it's just that one bad apple and that one bad, it doesn't make any sense. I mean, there's so much crime in crypto. A crypto company last year estimated that $154 billion of criminal activity was facilitated via cryptocurrency in 2025 alone. And that's from a crypto company, so it might be on the low end of the expectation. Yeah. That is an enormous, staggering amount of criminal activity. And it's everything from like Russian oligarchs selling sanctioned oil to the Chinese in exchange for drones they're sending to Ukraine. It's ISIS. It's a lot of money laundering.
North Koreans are very involved in it, trying to steal it, trying to use it, getting around sanctions.
Half the North Korean hackers, half of the North Korean nuclear weapons program was funded via the crypto hacking teams. Right?
Why hasn't there been any kind of pushback? Because these people have gone to jail, and these scams have been revealed, and there seems to be no consequences. That's a great question. I would say there's a couple parts. The first is, so in 2022, we were on our way, in 2023, we were on our way to like some sort of reckoning. Yeah. Sam was in jail, Shank
Changpeng Zhao, Binance, pled guilty to money laundering. A bunch of other people went to jail. Alex Mashinsky, who I interview in the movie, is in jail. And then Trump turned to suddenly loving cryptocurrency in the spring, summer of 2024, the election. He had called Bitcoin a scam as recently as 2021, but whether he saw there was money to be made for himself or whether he saw a constituency that he needed to woo young men, that might have been as well, he's all of a sudden loved crypto. And then people, quite frankly, rationally did the calculation of, well, if it's a 50-50 shot of him getting reelected, and if he gets elected, he can do a lot, and has done a lot. I'll talk about that in a second. So they started betting on it, and the price went up, and it went crazy. It was at like $120,000 by the time he was in office. And now he's delivered on that. They've disbanded the DOJ crypto crime task force. The SEC has been gutted. They passed this bill called the Genius Act, which, if you know this Congress, it's called the Genius Act. It's got to be stupid. And what it does is allow, amongst other things, allow corporations to issue their own money in the form of stablecoins. So literal corporate money is what we're talking about.
I want to ask you lastly just about what really seems to animate the movie you talked about just a moment ago. That is people who have done this and lost a ton of money. So Celsius, which billed itself as this kind of anti-bank, people put a ton of money into and lost all of it. And a sobering moment in the movie is you're talking to many of these folks around the country, maybe around the world, who have lost their fortunes in some cases and are having to reckon with all of that. I think about that in the context of the conversation you had with Alex Mashinsky, who started that company, who I think you later described as kind of a carnival barker, and seems that way when you're at a conference, kind of sitting around with him on couches like these. What is it that's so persuasive about this industry to people that maybe they let their guard down, or they don't have any inhibitions about going into this nascent financial product?
Yeah, I mean, it's partially a get-rich-quick scheme, which is the oldest scheme in the books, but to be sympathetic, and I am sympathetic to the people that have lost a lot of money, I think if crypto serves any function, it's to redirect us back to the regulated system and the failures of the regulated system, to convince people that or to give people a shot at actually getting ahead. I think the thing that's really pernicious about it is that, you mentioned the interviews I did with the Celsius victims. I bond with them at the beginning of the movie, and at the end of the movie, I come back to them and I ask them the same question, which is, do you still believe in it, having lost all the money?
Yeah. And
they all said yes. So amongst the hardcore group, you're really talking about, I describe in the movie as it's a projection of the hopes and dreams of all of those investors. And as long as the crypto industry will keep selling the story as long as they're buying it.
Well, that's disappointing, but highly accurate.